Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is my channel Addicted to Gaming, and this is another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today I want to talk you through how I set my team up to take on the ultimate clan boss. Um, so in my cluster, Gallifrey, we aim to take down the ultimate nightmare clan boss in as many of our cluster clans as we can. But one of the real key things that we need to look at is making sure that we don't cap out too high on damage. That way, as many as the clan can get the top chest as possible. So with this in mind, and the fact that I don't have an unkillable team, I've tried to set my team up so that I can always 2-key the ultimate clan boss. Let me talk you through my team. So, if I start with my lead is Altan. So high defensive champ. Um, he's known really for his ability to place a decreased attack on his A1, and he's got an increased defense aura for the rest of the team. Those two abilities there are really great for the clan boss. I've then got Rhazin, who's a fusible champ. So the main reason he comes in is because he's able to place decreased defense and weaken on the clan boss. He's also got a free hit A1, which is really great if you pair that with Giant Slayer. My next champion would then be Bad El Kazar. So Bad El Beck, really great champion. Those people that don't know him I'd be surprised if that's anybody, but really well known for this ability here. So Malice basically is able to place two heals and two poisons. Um, so two heals on your team, two poisons on the clan boss every time this ability is back, and it's on a free turn cooldown. So really great ability. It's also got a great passive, which sometimes is overlooked, but it helps the rest of your team do more damage when the enemy is under poison. And then his A1, just to cap all that off, is a heal as well. So every time he attacks the enemy, it heals this champion and your allies by 20% of the damage he's doing. Really good champ for clan boss. Um, we've then got Vizia. Um, Pretty insane champion. So this is definitely the best debuff extender in the game. Um, in fact, if I could, I would stop Vizier using his A2 or his A3 for clan boss, because actually they're completely unnecessary. His A1 is all you need, and his A1 has basically a 50% chance of increasing duration of your debuffs every time he hits, and he hits 3 times every turn. So if you imagine he hits 3 times on a normal turn and then 3 times on any counter attacks, just means that you just scale up those debuffs really fast. I've never on Void, I've never not had this proc enough to just keep the buffs stacking. And bearing in mind, I've got Warlord, and I used Warlord before I had this champ, and Warlord is nowhere near as strong at doing this ability. So then my final champion in my lineup is Skullcrusher. I don't have a Martyr, I don't have a Valk. I would like one of each of those champions, but I guess I've had enough RNG to not whine about that. But yeah, but Skullcrusher is really there for his Stonewall ability. So basically provides ally protection on all his allies, um, which also provides a counter attack on all his allies, and then he becomes unkillable while that's on. So basically, he's taking his normal damage, he's taking damage that your allies would take, and he's also giving the rest of your champs counter attack. Um, so yeah, really good champion for an epic. So I guess the main things which I wanted to show you around my comp. So I tend to look for marginal gains, a bit like an Olympian. So I won't just get a comp that works and stick with it. I will look to see how can I better it, how can I change a 3 key into a 2 key, etc. So what I what I did early on with Clan Boss is I saw a graph. I'll quickly show you this. And basically, what this is telling us is how defense works against damage reduction. So every time one of your champions takes a hit, basically you have your defense running down this column here, the x-axis. And what this is saying is, as you scale in defense, the defense will do less of a job for you. So actually, if you get to around 2.5k defense, what this is saying is, the next sort of 1,500 defense is not really gonna give you much more damage reduction than the first sort of 2.5. I hope that makes sense. Um, Now, what I did was I was getting to about 2.5k defense, and then I was stacking HP because I thought that would be the better option then. It turns out this graph is just completely wrong. So I don't, this actually was posted on the Raid Shadow Legends official forums some time ago now, but this graph is not accurate at all. I think it scales more like this, right off the chart. I think it's not until you get to about 4.5, 5k defense that it really starts to tail off. And I did a lot of re-gearing to get my team up to as high a defense level as I could. So if I take my two non-defensive based champions, Beck and Vizia, so if you look here, I've scaled as much defense as I can on these champs. So both of them close to sort of 4.5k defense. Um, and really that's my first point is I need to get to the right speed, then I need to get as much defense as I can, and then the marginal gains come in where I say, well, now I've got to that level, how do I start to do more damage? So firstly, I need to be the right speed. Secondly, I need to stay alive as long as I can, especially when you've got an extender champ. Thirdly, how do I then start to push more damage? So one of the ways you push more damage is you start to do things like add glyphs. And I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to do faction wars, it's not great. And in fairness, it's not in a good spot right now. However, I still do faction wars every day and I get, even if it's low level glyphs on all of my champs that are important to me in the comps that I run. So um, all of my clan boss champs are glyphed, all of my arena champs are glyphed. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you add a bit more sustainability or a bit more damage? Um, One of the other things I do, which I think is probably fairly unusual, is I get to the speed level that I need. So for those that don't know, you need to run a comp for Ultimate Nightmare of speeds between 191 and 209. So your slowest champ should be your counter attack champ. So mine here is Skull Crusher, and I've got him running at 194. And then I've got Altan, 196. Vizia is also at 196. Then we've got Rhazin here, 198. And Bad at 199. So they're all at the right speed. So I thought I'd get to the right speed, but also I want to stack that defense. So all of my champs, I've tried to get them in defense boots, but still hitting the speed cap. And that's where my gearing starts to make a difference. That's how I can get to these sort of numbers on defense. So actually, look here, we've got defense, defense, defense. That's what I care about. I need him to stay alive, and then I hope that I've pushed for the right subs to then actually get to the right speed and to the right sort of levels to start doing some damage. Bad L does damage, he heals the rest of your team. And look, I've got good gear here, but it's not perfect gear. I've still got 5-star stuff, but I have farmed a lot of gear. So if I look at Vizier, here we go again, defense boots. I managed to pull a speed sub, which made me able to start to get to near to the speed cap. Defense chest, this is going to look pretty similar. Defense gloves, yeah, so it's all about keeping those champs alive. Now, what I realised was with Rhazin and Altan, I was going way over the level of defense of everybody else. So they were staying alive a lot longer, but the person that was keeping them alive, because I'm not running lifesteal gear anywhere, Bad L was dying, which meant actually they just died a turn or two later anyway. So they didn't benefit from having all that extra defense. So what I did with these guys is I got them to the same sort of level of defense as my Bad L and my Vizier, and then I said, well, why don't I just make them hit harder? So on Razin, I mean, it's not perfect here, but he basically crits all the time, and on a free hit A1, those crits are doing decent damage, which you'll see in the video shortly. Altan, similar thing. So up to basically 100% crit, and again, he hits really hard when he's critting. So his gloves crit rate as well, and his defense is still sort of kicking up around 5k, so still above the levels of these other two which I've just mentioned. The only difference really in my setup is Skull Crusher. So Skull Crusher takes a real beating um, on his on sort of turn one of the clan boss attacks. He takes the hits, um, and then on turn two he loses his unkillable buff, so he has to find a way to regain his life. Lifesteal is the only way that I've found to get him up to that sort of level whilst running this comp. So he's in a full lifesteal gear set, but still defense, and for him I've had to go on speed. I would like as well to move this into a defensive set of boots and slightly tweak the gear, but I haven't got the gear to do it at the moment. For him, I would like to just push as much defense and HP as I could above these levels because he just takes such a beating towards the end of the fight. Um, so one other thing to mention, so for me it was really important to get the speed order right. So I needed Bad L to be the fastest because he cleanses the clan boss's stun. Um, I needed Rhazin to then be next because he applies the weaken and decrease defense, and then everyone else benefits from those buffs being on. Um, and I need Skull Crusher to be slowest. And that runs true for any of these speed-tuned comps. I also needed for Skull Crusher to have basically no accuracy because I don't want his heal. He's got a A1 which can apply this heal reduction. I do not want that going on. It takes up one of my debuffs spots. But everybody else I've got at around 230 to 240 accuracy, which is enough to take on the ultimate clan boss with this comp, mainly because Vizia just does such a good job of keeping the buffs up. I think most people, if they didn't have something like a Vizia or a Warlord extending, they would probably push higher accuracy. I don't need to. The other thing which might be different to what most people have seen is my mastery setup. So you'll see here, defensive masteries, defensive masteries. I'll come back to Bad in a second. Defensive masteries, defensive masteries. I'm stacking defense as much as I can. I still need my War Master or my Giant Slayer because that's where a lot of the damage comes from. But I just want these guys to stay alive as long as they can. So a couple of interesting ones. I've got pretty much the same setup on everybody. So you've got this one here, reduces damage from AoE. You've got this one here, over time, starts to reduce the damage you take from hits. And I've got this one here, which has a chance to counter-attack if this champ loses 50% of its HP. That's important on Skull Crusher towards the end of the fight. So yeah, the only person I don't have on defensive masteries is Bad L. It's really for one ability, and it's this one. If I didn't have this ability on Bad L, I would go defensive as well. But what this does, it gives me a chance to extend the heal over times by an extra turn, which by the end of the fight becomes really crucial. So if I can get 3 stacks of heal over time instead of 2 across most of my team, then that's really huge towards the end of the fight. Okay, so I think that is everything on this page. We might as well just get into the fight and you can see how I set it up. So you see here a couple of the clan mates go for the unkillable 1 key setup. They don't go much over the threshold, as I was saying. And yeah, we've got a void affinity here, so this should be a pretty basic run. So you can see I've got it set up like this. For those that don't know, speed has nothing to do with where your team counter-attack. So what you want to do for counter-attack is have your attack down as your first one ideally, and your buff extender as your last person. So it goes like this in terms of order. So Altan will counter-attack first, then Rhazin, then Bad L. If you had another counter-attack champ here, it would be then this person. If you had a Valk or a Martyr that plays counter-attack on everybody, but Skull Crusher doesn't do that. And then Vizir for me will go last. That's really important. Also, it's really important to know that the clan boss is going to target your leader first if everybody's at the same level of health. and you don't have some sort of affinity weakness. So the last thing you want is Bad L to be the leader, because Bad L is the person that's going to cleanse off the stun on the third turn when the clan boss does his single target attack. So let's go in. So just take it off auto a second. So what you'll see here is I have to come off of auto because of Vizir for the first few rounds of the event, of the clan boss. So the reason for that is because Vizir has got pretty silly A2, A3 for this fight. He starts to put debuffs on which I don't want. So I manually will do the first few rounds. The main thing I'm doing here is making sure that um, we're basically putting on the items that are going to give me most damage early on. Vizir will always do his A1. His A2 would apply these other debuffs which I don't want. And that's what he'd do on auto. You see there, see already up to 5 stacks on these debuffs. And then Skull Crusher will go in and do his counter attack. Because of the way I got this speed tuned, I'll always get the benefit of both counter attacks for round 1 and round 2. That's crucial. I've also got no masteries on any of these champions that will boost their speed turn. So basically, they'll always run in this order and they'll never outrun the clan boss. So from here, I'm just hitting A1s right the way through. And I'm going to be doing this right through until I get 10 stacks, because I don't want Vizir to place his debuffs which don't help us. It's also worth noting, just while I'm talking here, that the weaken and decrease defense do add significant damage. So once you've got both of those buffs up, it's actually about double the damage for a War Master or Giant Slayer proc than what it would be without them. I used to have Rhazin in my fault. I did some work on it and I realised that that was a real mistake. He's an incredible asset to this team. So here we go, we got the stun. Bad L goes first, cleans the stun. It means I never lose the option of an attack. As you can see, this is not really needed at this stage of the fight, but we've got 3 stacks here, 3 stacks here. That's why I've got that ability on the lasting gifts. And it's rinse and repeat, as I say, until I get those 10 debuffs up, at which stage I can hit auto. So I'm going to run this through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed this part up. You probably don't want to watch me just do this piece, and I'll bring this back on when I'm close to finishing the boss. So you can see just at the end of the fight how much that lifesteal equipment on Skull Crusher does us a real benefit. So we're just going to pick this back up here. You'll see what we're just over 10.5 minutes in. The clan boss is now hitting pretty hard. You'll see when the clan boss does his big hits that I start to get the benefit from having some of those defensive masteries on. My Skull Crusher will do a lot of counter attacks, and yeah, it just helps me stay alive longer into the fight. So if you can imagine this, at this level when you're against the ultimate clan boss, you're just trying to stay alive for as many turns as you can and keep that damage ticking over. So all of these poison buffs, which are now into silly numbers, sort of 30s upwards, you just want them to keep ticking away for as long as possible. But every time now the clan boss is doing his hits, we're starting to take a lot of damage. So we're probably going to lose someone before too long. What I tend to do as well, if I'm actually watching the fight at this stage, you'll see here I've switched Altan's A2 to go on the second wave instead of the first wave. So early in the fight you get more damage from him having on the first wave because all your defensive champs hit more. But later in the fight you actually benefit Skull Crusher from giving him that shield, defensive shield here at this stage, keeps him alive longer into the fight. So it depends really whether you want to full auto or not. You'll see here with that lifesteal gear, Skull Crusher's coming right back and basically topping off his health, whereas the others now start to struggle to get that health back. So I'd imagine people in lifesteal gear, they probably can't get to my level of stats unless they've got insane gear, but they can, they do heal, so they can't last as long as I do, but they heal right up. So that's the kind of, yeah, that's what you're giving away really. You see now, so I lost Vizia. He's actually the one I want to lose first. As long as he goes down first, it means that Skull Crusher starts to take less damage because he's taking less damage from the rest of the team. Vizier's job is done. He has put these poisons on. They are stacked. You know, there's no way we'd ever run through those. So he's done his job, and actually he's also done his job now by dying. As sad as that sounds. So you get to this last part of the fight, and normally the next one to go down for me will be my Bad L, which basically signals the end because Bad L is the person that keeps everybody alive. In my comp, I don't have another way of keeping them up. Also, because I moved Altan's A2 to the second phase, it means that Altan stopped taking the hits and Skull Crusher is now taking the hits instead for that single target. That is perfect for me because Skull Crusher is the one who heals by himself with his life stability. Also, he's the one here who will do the counter attack and unkillable on the next turn. So even though he's taking that big hit, he definitely won't die the next turn. But as I said, people are now starting to get a bit low. What we're up to, sort of coming up for 14 minutes of the fight. I generally will hit somewhere between 35 and 40 million on this comp. As long as I'm sort of capping around 35, it means I'll get my 2 key Ultimate Nightmare in, which is the aim of this comp. So there's no way I'm going to 1 key without an unkillable comp. This was all about how do I 2 key and then leave myself the ability to go and get that Nightmare Clan boss as well as. See there, Skull Crusher heals up to full before he takes a big hit. And then again, he's going to put his unkillable on and last the next turn as well. So as I say, this is it's totally possible to auto with this comp. It 100% will beat Nightmare Clan Boss in 1 key on full auto. It will normally beat Ultimate Clan Boss with 1 key as well. Sorry, 2 keys as well on full auto. But it just leaves me open to a bit of RNG. I'm not quite there yet on the min-maxing to make that 100% certainty. So it really depends how busy I am. But yeah, look, see, we're so close to dying now that it's going to be the next set of waves that kill me off. So we'll just see this play out. This should be the hit now that's going to kill everybody because I don't have the benefit from Skull Crushers. Oh no, we've got a couple living. Yeah, Skull Crusher would have given me the support there, but this is definitely it now. So we'll just play this through and see what sort of damage we've done. Goodbye. So there we go. 42.93 million. That's actually a personal best. So so I'll take that on a live YouTube video. But yeah, what you'll see, this is really what I want to show you. So these two champs here, for a Skull Crusher, that's good damage. Most comps you'll see will do between sort of 1 and 2.5 million. Vizia is really only doing damage from his Giant Slayer procs, but that's all through Giant Slayer procs. You then got Bad L, which this is not uncommon to see somebody as a main damage dealer because they're the poisoner in a comp where you've got an extender. So 16 million there, it's good damage, but it's not super impressive compared to other comps I see. This is where you'll see the difference. Because I was able to stack their defense and then give them crit rate gloves, they are doing almost, it's what's that, 65% of what my poison damage dealer is doing. So pretty much I'm gaining an extra probably 10 million compared to most comps I see because I'm running defense boots. And because, I'm lucky I've got Bad L who's going to keep people alive. I don't have to put everyone in lifesteal gear. But there it is. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing that. Leave me a comment down below. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop me a line. Please subscribe to my channel. I'd like to do more videos like this. I'd like to see if there's a desire to see more. Until the next time, this is Hell Hades. This is my channel Addicted to Gaming, and speak soon. Thank you.